Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Raja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Raja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Grivaradari. Gopidana Ballabha Grivaradari Jaya Grivaradari. Yasodanandana Raja Janaranjana Jaya Brada Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Raja Janaranjana Jaya Brada Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Raja Janaranjana Jaya Brada Janaranjana. Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari. Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Brevadekacharya Asatara Satushi Shiman. His Divine Grace Shilasi Bhaktivedanta Swaraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hariva Slava Zarani Bhakta Slava Shri Guru Shri Grangi. Om Agyanam Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vrijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanshena Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishuvana Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Dhruvyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitinanda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 22, and I'll read the summary. Bali Maharaj surrenders his life. The summary of this 22nd chapter is as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead was pleased by the behavior of Bali Maharaj. Thus the Lord placed him on the planet Sutala, and there, after bestowing benedictions upon him, the Lord agreed to become his doorman. That's the summary of the summary, and we'll start with text number 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, O King, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead was superficially seen to have acted mischievously toward Bali Maharaj was fixed in his determination. Considering himself not to have fulfilled his promise, he spoke as follows. Shri Balir Uvacha Yad Yuttama Shloka Bhavan Mame Ritam Vacho Vyalikam Suravarya Manyate Karomi Ritam Tan Anabha Bhavet Pralambanam Padam Tri Tiyam Kuru Shirishni Me Nrijam Shri Balir Uvacha Yat Uttama Shloka Bhavan Mameritam Vacho Vyalikam Suravarya Manyate Karomi Ritam Tan Nabhavet Palambanam Padam Tritiyam Kuru Shirishni Me Nijam. Ladies? Shri Bala Vacha Yutama Shloka Bhavan Memaritam Vacho Velikam Suravarya Manyate Karam Ritam Tan Abhavet Pralambanam Padam Tritiyam Kuru Shri Shinirmitam Shri Balero Vacha Bali Maharaj said, Yadi, if Uttama Shloka, O Supreme Lord, Bhavan, your good self, Mama, my, Trityam, promised, Vacha, words, Yalikam, false, Suravarya, O greatest of all suras, demigods. Manyate, you think so. Karomi, I shall make it. Ritam, truth. Tat, that. Promise. Na, not. Bhavet, will become. Pralambanam, cheating. Where we heard this word pralambanam before. What's that? Pralambasura. And what does Pralambasura represent? What do you think he represents? Yes, cheating. Good guess. Isn't that amazing? And what is he? Yes, he must represent cheating. Padam, step. Tritiyam, the third. Kuru, just do it. Shirshni, on the head. Me, my. Nijam, your lotus feet. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Bali Maharaj said, O best personality of Godhead, most worshipful of all the demigods, if you think that my promise has become false, I shall certainly rectify matters to make it truthful. I cannot allow my promise to be false. Please therefore place your third lotus footstep on my head. Purport. Bali Maharaj could understand the pretense of Lord Vamanadev, who had taken the side of the demigods and come before him as a beggar. Although the Lord's purpose was to cheat him, Bali Maharaj took pleasure in understanding how the Lord will cheat his devotee to glorify the devotee's position. It is said that God is good, and this is a fact. Whether he cheats or rewards, he is always good. Bali Maharaj therefore addressed him as Uttama Shloka, your lordship, he said. You are always praised with the best of selected verses. On behalf of the demigods, you disguised yourself to cheat me, saying that you wanted only 3 paces of land. But later you expanded your body in such an extent that with 2 footsteps you cover the entire universe. Because you are working on behalf of your devotees, you do not regard this as cheating. Never mind, I cannot be considered a devotee. Nonetheless, because although you are the husband of the goddess of fortune, you have come to me to beg, I must satisfy you to the best of my ability. So please do not think that I wanted to cheat you. I must fulfill my promise. I still have one possession, my body. You have taken my wealth, but still I have my body. When I place my body for your satisfaction, please put your third step on my head. Since the Lord had covered the entire universe with 2 steps, one must ask how Bali Maharaj's head could be sufficient for his third step. Bali Maharaj, however, thought that the possessor of wealth must be greater than the possession. Therefore, although the Lord had taken all his possessions, the head of Bali Maharaj, the possessor, would provide adequate place for the Lord's third step. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadhyade Satarane. In the Nectar of Devotion, it is said, or Prabhupada writes in the purport of the, I think it's practically it's the first chapter, or the introduction really, that a person in Krishna consciousness, he concentrates his intelligence on the instructions that were given by Krishna to Arjuna on the battlefield Kurukshetra. And with his mind, he thinks of either Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan or, for instance, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And with the body, he works according to the orders of the spiritual master. Therefore, the manifested presence of the spiritual master must be there. Manifested means that manifested in sound, at least, the instructions. So one can work with one's intelligence, one can work with one's mind, and one can work with one's body. But the perfection is to work with the body, the mind, and the words in Krishna's service. Tad buddhyas, tad atmanas, tad nishtas, tad parayanaha, gachatnyapana aritim, jnana nirduta kamashaha. One's faith, one's mind, one's intelligence, one's refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes cleansed of all misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of self-realization. In other words, we're practicing how to utilize our body, how to utilize our mind, and how to utilize our words in Krishna's service, or our intelligence. Principally, we're supposed to begin with intelligence, because without intelligence, we won't know how to utilize these other things in Krishna's service. So Prabhupada writes, we work principally with our mind and intelligence. Therefore, these classes or hearing about Krishna is most important, because otherwise, well, if we hear the classes and we understand something, we get some insight, then we know how to work better, at least for Krishna. Not only with the body, because we refuse to utilize the body in Krishna's service, it's very unlikely we're going to utilize our mind properly or our intelligence. Generally speaking, it's easier to become a blind follower than to become an enlightened follower. So therefore, at least we should be a blind follower. If we're a blind follower, at least we're a follower. And then there's some hope in the future, we might stumble into the light sometime. And here we have an example of Bali Maharaj, and his exaltation is not that he just gave away the universe. Of course, sometimes if we have a pencil, we like the pencil, we have a hard time giving it away. And if we can give it away, we want our name written in all the Vaishnava newspapers about our sacrifice. At least honorable mention after Mangalarti. But we find that Jarasandha, that Krishna, Bhima, Arjuna went to get charity from him, and he was even offering his own head in charity. Whatever they wanted, even his head. How many of us are going to offer our head in charity? Someone comes, can you give me something? You say, what? I like your head. Well, sure, no kidding. Would you like a couple of arms too? No, we think you're crazy. I'm not giving charity like that. But what was the reason of Jarasandha? Why did he want to give even his head? Because Krishna was clever enough to give examples such as Maharaj Shibi, who sacrificed his life for the sake of a pigeon, Maharaj Rantidev, who gave in charity, even up to the time of almost committing suicide by giving away the last water that he had. But Jarasandha wanted to offer his head not as devotion to Krishna, but simply to get fame for his false ego. So sometimes we'll sacrifice everything. We'll sacrifice our body. We'll sacrifice even the way we feel about things, even the way we do things, our conceptions of things, all to satisfy our false ego. That somehow or another I'm intelligent and everyone else is stupid. I actually have the right feeling and everyone else is just somehow or another not up to the level of devotion and feeling that I have. I know how to do things right, and no one knows how to do things as good as I can. So what is this? Massaging is massaging the false ego. That's our primary goal in the human form of life, or in any form of life, is to make sure our ego feels good. I'm the king of the beasts. I'm a lion. Rawr. Oh, now the lion may not analyze that, why do I have such a big false ego? I should be a vegetarian, but I can't give up the bad habits of eating meat. No, the lion has a big false ego, probably less than most people do. But he can't help it because he doesn't have any intelligence, sufficient intelligence to give up his bad habits. To give up his false ego, at least. I don't think there's going to be too many vegetarian lions, but at least he can give up this I am a lion. Just like Garuda, you've heard of Garuda. Garuda is the personal carrier of Vishnu. And yet, great devotee, and yet he's not a vegetarian, by the way. And I don't know if he ought. Sometimes he picks up tortoises and elephants and eats them, but not ordinary tortoises and elephants. Tortoises 50 yojanas long across. That's 50 times 8 for around 600 kilometers. I mean, that's a good meal for anyone. And even the elephants are even bigger. Heavy, a lot of meat on the elephant. And then we find out Garuda picked up the king of the fish and Sabari Muni cursed him. So he's not a vegetarian. Nor is he ever going to become a vegetarian, even by good association. Even by studying Ayurveda. Yeah, I don't know. This fish eating, I know, is pretty low class. No, that's his position. That's the body he has, and that's what he eats. But he's a great devotee. He's always in Krishna consciousness. So it's not Jarasandha because it's not that he wanted to give in charity, and therefore that's great because he was following the Vedic culture. That was certainly auspicious. Therefore he got the opportunity to personally meet Krishna. But still he was a demon. And Krishna had Bhima rip him apart because he had the wrong understanding, the wrong understanding that he wanted to sacrifice everything for his eternal fame to satisfy his false ego. Most sane people will think, well, what a waste of time. But the whole world is moving on that direction. My legacy, what will my legacy be? Just like parents, when the devotees join the movement, they think, oh, my child is dead. He's left. He's worse than dead. If he was dead, at least I can tell my friends and my relatives he died, and they could all appreciate that fact that he died in some noble way. But it's worse than that. He became a Hare Krishna. I'm too embarrassed to tell my relatives. I hope they don't know, because he's worse than dead. But if he gets married or she gets married and they have children, oh, okay, we forgive you. Now our legacy, our parampara is being carried on, so things aren't as bad as they look. You're, quote, almost normal. So everyone is worried, that's on the one level. Everyone is worried about that legacy. What will I leave behind? How many disciples will I leave behind? What will people think of me? Will they go to my tombstone and cry? Someone at least, please go and cry. I did something good. That's why I'm staying here as a ghost, just to get find out a few tears. So this false ego is very subtle. As a matter of fact, practically speaking, the whole world is moving according to it. Not according to intelligence, not even according to their feelings sometimes. They'll even sacrifice their feelings to satisfy their false ego. Yet Bali Maharaj gave up his false ego and accepted himself as dasa, dasa, anudasa, the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. As we'll find out later, it wasn't by Sukracharya's association that he was able to give up the universe and give up his own head to have Lord Vamade place his lotus foot on Bali Maharaj's head. It was because of his good association with Prahlad Maharaj. Therefore he accepted himself as a servant to Prahlad Maharaj, and therefore the servant of the servant of the servants of Krishna. Then he was able, whatever he was doing was perfect. And of course we find out Krishna is not ungrateful. It's not that Bali Maharaj surrendered, although apparently it was like that, but Krishna is just playing around a little bit, testing. He's always testing his devotees to see how they're going to react. Sometimes he separates himself from the gopis who are always so attached to him in love, and he's attached to them in love. Sometimes he just gets up and leaves. On some pretense, like Srimati Radharani has become proud. And therefore he even leaves her just to see how she reacts. And sometimes Srimati Radharani rejects Krishna. And she sees how he reacts. Sometimes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's going in front of the Rath Yatra cart and leading Krishna back to Vrindavan, Lord Jagannath. And sometimes he stops and sees what Lord Jagannath is going to do. Is he going to go to Vrindavan without him? And then Lord Jagannath stops the cart. So testing is always there. Without some test, where is the glorification? If Prahlad Maharaj was born in the family of Hiranyakashipu, and then he said, all right, Dad, let's make a deal. I know you're a demon, I'm supposed to be a devotee, but I'll chant Hare Krishna, but not publicly. I won't embarrass you. As far as the kids at school, well, they're demons anyhow, what can I do? If I find someone who's potentially a devotee, I'll slip him a note. Meet with him privately. I won't embarrass you before these teachers. No, then why would we bother celebrating? Why would Lord Nrsimhadev come and protect Prahlad Maharaj? Why did Krishna not save Draupadi until she finally, wasn't she in a precarious position? Wasn't she a pure devotee? Why didn't Krishna come and save her from being disrobed in front of all these elderly Kurus? Why did he wait until Draupadi finally put up her hands and said, save me, surrendered? Otherwise, if Krishna was so cheap, he just came, hey Krishna, I got your email, can you come by? I need some help. Oh, Krishna is not so cheap. He has to see at least a little bit of inclination to surrender to his mission. Then he comes and helps us. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Then he gives us the intelligence so that our false ego a little bit goes away. Our intelligence grows, and so we know how to utilize our body and what the proper mood is better. And ultimately we become inspired to serve him, and we can advance towards perfection. Therefore, these stories are not just there so we can pass the time reading these books, so we get a little inspired to go out and sell them, so we can get some money, so we can offer some food to the deities and eat. There's something deeper. And that we have to discover by reading it. What is actually being conveyed here? And how does it fit into the other great devotees? What makes these devotees, Swayambhura, what is that? There are 9 Mahajans. There are 9 processes of devotional service. The 9 Mahajans, of which Bali Maharaj is the example of Atma-nivedana, surrendering everything, like Ambarish Maharaj. So what does he have in common with Prahlad Maharaj, who is expert at remembering? Or Akrura, who is expert at offering prayers? Or Pariksha Maharaj, expert at hearing? Or Shukadeva Goswami, expert at speaking, Srimad Bhagavatam? They all had the same attitude of surrender to Krishna. Although how they surrendered to Krishna may have differed, but they all had this attitude of giving whatever they had to Krishna, and therefore they became perfect in their particular activity of either hearing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Sakyam, Atma-nivedanam, Vandanam, Atma-nivedanam. Therefore they became perfect. And here Bali Maharaj is showing his perfection. And unless Krishna had manifested this pastime, we'd never understand how exalted Bali Maharaj was, due to his exalted association of Prahlad Maharaj. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
So blind following is risky because you might end up somewhere where you don't want to be. But how can one, as you were mentioning, step more into the light? Because as much as I understand, one who's like still at the beginning, he doesn't have nor eagerness, nor intelligence, neither strength to do it.
Sounds pretty dangerous. How does it do it? Well, it starts out with Adao Shraddha. There has to be at least a little liking for Krishna consciousness, something, Prasadam, the holy name, association, something, some kind of liking. Then one may come in association of devotees and learn how to do it in their association. If one is sincere and wants to do it, even though one may have difficulty, but if one is sincere, then one sticks to it. So in the beginning, those who have the good fortune, Brahmande, Brahmate, Kon Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Prasade Pai, Bhakti Latavish, after wandering throughout the whole universe looking for the happiness and learning and for the knowledge of how to gain it, permanent happiness, one fortunately comes in contact with some devotee who gives some direction. And how much we take that direction will depend upon how much we get the benefit, how much we get the mercy from Krishna. So at the beginning, many people come and they leave, because as Prabhupada said, most people come because the real the benefit they want is to get free from distress. And they get a little free from distress and they go away. And some people come with a desire for a little economic advancement, development. When they get that, then they go away. So only when one comes to the platform of inquisitiveness to find out how to actually solve one's problems of life, Brahma Jignasya, then one can actually become steady, advance towards steadiness in Krishna consciousness. So, if by good fortune one comes in here regularly, then one can do it. Otherwise, if one doesn't hear regularly, then one will gradually fall away from any kind of devotional service eventually. Once one's needs are satisfied, one will go somewhere else. Anything else?
So also on the topic of blind following, what would you say about the wife of Dhritarashtra? Was she following blindly or was her behavior right?
Well, she was certainly following blindly because she had wrapped her eyes with... So she and her husband were both blind, practically speaking. No, she was following Vaishnava, she was following the Sri Dharma. She was doing it she was fully conscious of Krishna, but she was doing it to set the example of how to be a good wife. Even your husband's not perfect, still you act as a wife, good wife. That's Sri Dharma. If she didn't do that, then everyone would have taken the example. Because Dhritarashtra, he followed the regular principles, he wasn't a pure devotee, but he didn't interfere with her devotion. He was actually a devotee of Krishna, Dhritarashtra. And therefore she stuck with him and tried to guide him properly. And at the end she got the reward, because Dhritarashtra at least tried to get rid of his offenses and meditate on Krishna. And she got the benefit too. Anything else? Kuala, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.